We're live, pal.
We're live, pal.
And we are live from a Waffle House bathroom in Sarasota, Florida. I am one of your brothers in Kayfabe for this emergency episode of the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast. Not a real episode, not a full-on episode, but there's just been a lot of stuff. We picked a bad week to take the week off for Valentine's Day.
Yep.
And a lot has happened, and I felt like we needed to talk about it. Landon couldn't be here, so I'm joined by the brother. His name says Rory Stokes, but the man, Roger Stokes. What's going on, Raj?
Another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise. I love it.
Yeah, no gimmicks today though. No gimmicks today. Just me, baby.
No gimmicks. We're not doing any gimmicks today. This is
gimmick free.
There's some serious stuff we got to talk about. But first, how the heck are you?
Man, I'm good. Outside of what we're about to discuss, it's
let me.
It's kind of got me. It's kind of got me. I wouldn't say on the fence. See, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I already popped mine, so I'm already ahead of you. But it's a big deal, dude.
I always wait till we're on the air to pop the top,
Well, I went ahead and started a little early. Like I said, it's been rough since Tuesday.
Thanks to one of my friends leaving a whole case of Coors Light at my house. So thank you, Chandler.
I love free beer ski. Nothing wrong with that.
Beer skis. But this is the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast. We are here each and every week. At on Tuesdays, our episodes release. It is Wednesday, and like I said, we just wanted to do a quick little emergency broadcast because of some stuff that's going on. The wrestling landscape is changing every minute of the day, it seems like, and make sure to leave some comments, talk to us. We want to see what y'all think about the situation at hand. Roger, we've kind of tried to avoid like really getting into it about this situation, but man, it's a bombshell was dropped on us yesterday.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. Man, dude, like I said, it was yesterday. And I'm still taking time today to process it.
Yeah, and that's why I thought about getting on last night. Facebook user, thank you. If you can comment who you were. Yeah. It's I don't understand what's happening. I really don't. A founding member of AEW is out of the company. Everyone's saying it's a work. Oh, thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike Robinson. Cody is gone, and Cody is like somebody we both have our ire for. I mean, to be fair, like I like the guy, but I think he was way overdone. But he's a founding member of AEW, and one of the big reasons why AEW happened in the first place. If he wouldn't have been part of the bet to take All In seriously, then who knows where we would be. But there's rumor, there's innuendo about what happened, what is about to happen. I've heard every theory there is about it. What is your take on this whole situation, Roger?
Man, and that's the thing, there's so much, speculation out there and so much, reported, quote unquote, sourced information. And I mean, I don't know, like, it's kind of like, I don't think it's a work. Like, I honestly, truly believe he's gone, and the reason why I think that is Tony Khan publicly putting it out there. I mean, there's no reason for him to try to make it part of a storyline for him to do it, participate. I think there's no gain in that. So therefore, I don't think that right there alone, I think makes it to where it's not really something that could be a work. My issue with it is that, so he left. It was announced he was gone. And, a few of the AEW talents, acknowledged it either by posting a picture of them together or making a statement, something like that. But, for the most part, never really heard anything negative. But you also never heard an actual direct comment from anybody from the Elite,
Right?
Omega, the Bucks, and if anything, me and you'd kind of discuss. I kind of spoke with you about it earlier. The Bucks shortly after updated their Twitter handle or the Twitter bio to say "Thank God for us." Came off as a little, I don't know, disrespectful, maybe even childish. Like, good riddance to that guy. We've heard for a while that there had been some kind of heat or tension between all of them. And maybe that's their way of saying, hey, finally he's gone, so that's one less distraction. Because let's be honest, ever since that company's inception, whether it's Dynamite or Rampage, they almost feel like two separate shows every episode. It seems like you've got Cody's side of the show in some form or fashion, or you've got the Elite side of the show. And obviously, the Elite tend to cater towards, I guess, aspects of, producing or rather presenting wrestling that's far different from Cody's, because you didn't really see Cody doing a lot of the haha.
Right.
Yeah, he had some segments that were bad and they flat out sucked, and he ended racism. But I mean, look, everybody lays a turd, it happens. Right. But at the end of the day, man, I don't know. Like, I keep hearing things about him possibly going to WWE, and that's a little alarming, because if you're willing to go back there knowing what it's like and you're leaving AEW, that says that there could be some really deep rooted issues there that's not being discussed. Right. Now, granted, I don't think those issues are anything that can't be fixed. I mean, if they've got Punk and Danielson there, and I don't think those guys are going to stick around if there's a bunch of horse shit happening.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I don't think that's really going to be a thing. But for Cody to just pick up and voluntarily leave the company that he found, that's a major thing. Because it's not like Cody's in-ring work was terrible. I mean, honestly, with the exception of just a few matches, almost every match Cody had in that company was fantastic. And honestly, his last outing was a banger. That ladder match with Sammy was insane.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's one of my candidates for match of the year.
Absolutely. And I mean, Cody's talent can't be disputed. Now, whether there were backstage politics issues or maybe it was an issue of money, I don't know. Like, there's so many reports out there, right? And it is exactly stuff like that. They're saying, oh, well, he wanted more money and they wouldn't match him with Punk's money. Or, they're saying, oh, well, there was creative differences, or, there was infighting. Like, there's so many different reports out there. You don't know what to believe. But unfortunately, it's kind of the downside to dirt sheets, is you've got 1,000 opinions on something, and it's more often than not, most of them are wrong anyways. I mean, Meltzer's proven that time and time again, which, boy, that's a whole other story for another day. I got a fun Meltzer story to tell you after we get off this broadcast, but yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. It's just, I'm on the team that I don't believe it's a work. If it's a work, then it's one of the most magnificent versions of a work that we've ever seen.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I think that if it was a work, I don't think you would have Brody Lee's widow posting about it not being a work.
Yeah.
because she has no dog in that hunt.
Nope, not in the slightest.
And as far as WWE, you know, I could see that happening. They may have backed the Brinks truck up to him.
Yeah.
I was like, let's bring you on. Because, and if that's the case, then we know where Cody's allegiances lie, and that's his pocketbook.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that they did back the truck up. It's of what did they back the truck up for? Are they booking them as a talent, or are they booking them up for something different?
And that's where things get a little weird too with with the WWE situation is his current contract with TNT and TBS with his Roads to the Top TV show, and then the Go Big show, because supposedly he's still showing a couple more years on those contracts. So I wouldn't think that Vince would let a guy appear on that channel that's working for him.
Yeah, but with that point being said, though, if they can get a founding member of that company to come over there, like that's a big deal.
It's huge.
That I think that's something that Vince would make leaps and bounds worth of concessions just to make happen, because like what a rub in the face, you know?
Right.
Like I don't like, man, like if he does go there, like that's a massive I think it holds more weight than people think.
We took one of your EVPs.
Yeah.
You're a pissant company.
And that's another thing I'm worried about too, is that with him gone, it kind of makes you wonder if he was like one of the last stalwarts there that was really trying to keep the wrestling presented, you know, in a more sport-like manner rather than just, you know, haha and acrobatics. Makes sense.
Right. And with this comment from Matt, from Matthew McCrite, I can agree with that. I could see him wanting to go back there and undo, you know, previous wrongs. But he's been so vocal against WWE that I don't know. I don't know if that's something that he gives a crap about. I could be wrong. For all we know, he could be retiring and going to live with his wife and kid. I don't think that's it.
I don't think it's either. Well, actually, I did hear a crazy theory today, and that is that maybe he's in fact not going to WWE, that maybe he is taking off to help with the relaunch of Ring of Honor.
I could see that.
Which, I mean, I don't see how that would violate any of his TBS and TNT contracts for the shows. And Ring of Honor is definitely more catered towards his style of wrestling.
And that could be huge for them. Like, that is a huge get. Like, I 100% could see that happening.
It could have been a situation where he decided that he's kind of tired of fighting the tide that is the Young Bucks and all of your comedy show antics, you know, and he wants to focus more on actual in-ring competition and it being more like, you know, old school wrestling. And because I'm sure with them as, you know, obviously Tony Khan's got creative control, but, you know, I'm sure Tony probably swings his favor towards, you know, what he likes, to be fair. Yeah. You know, he likes pockets.
Right.
You know, and it just, I don't know. I think maybe it was just one of the things where he just got tired of fighting it. And that could be a possibility too.
I can see that. I really could. And what a huge get that would be if he was to jump ship to the relaunch of ROH. For those that don't know, ROH has said whenever they stopped that they would be back. In what manner is that? We don't know. Is it going to be a weekly TV show again? Is it going to be a pay-per-view company? We don't know. But that would be a huge get to be signed exclusively to ROH. You've got this guy with national exposure with the name who led the company during one of its highest spots. I believe that.
Yeah.
It's just, and then there's the rumor that he was upset that he wasn't booking anymore and that he took his booking role very seriously. And you can tell whenever Tony Khan took over the booking. It changed a little bit, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. There are things that I've loved. There are things that I hated. But to your credit, like you said, when Cody was on air, it was almost as if he was booking his own stuff.
Yeah.
And that was it, because his stuff was so much different than everybody else. And it was to the point
it was almost like two different universes on that show, because none of those characters or performers ever crossed each other's pathways.
Right.
Which was the craziest thing to think about on this show with all these people on this massive roster, and that none of them ever crossed paths. Not in a promo, not in a tag match, not in a battle royal, nothing. It was almost like it was a separate world situation.
Cody stuck to the Nightmare family and the factory essentially for almost a year. And then whoever
and the MJF stuff.
The MJF stuff, but I mean, I'm talking about post the MJF deal, kind of TNT championship on COVID era. He stuck around the Nightmare Factory and the Nightmare family. And then if there was someone debuting for a TNT title match, then that's who he dealt with. But it's weird. It was such it's weird looking back on it, because you don't think really too much about it whenever it's happening. But now he's gone, and he's gone from the company, and you think, yeah, it was kind of weird how he was supposedly best friends with the Elite, and then we never saw them on TV together.
Yeah.
And especially with the amount of crossover that the Elite had within the last year since the Bucks turned heel.
Yeah.
It's very interesting where they're going to go. All eyes are on Cody. And this was a week where speculation was running hot on Stone Cold coming back and all these different things. And now it's all on Cody. It's very, very crazy to think about.
Yeah, and the whole thing really bums me out, because I was, and it was, essentially eventually going to head that way, was that eventual Cody heel turn. I know that, obviously on TV, part of it was that he was claiming he was never going to go that way.
Right.
But that's the way it was heading. And now we're not going to get to see that come to fruition. And that sucks. I was really looking forward to that, because I think that, I don't know, that version of him would have been so great. And I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll get that version of him elsewhere. But I was, looking forward to it happening there, because there's a lot of performers there I would have loved to see him work with, like Punk and Danielson and Hangman, and a few others like that. And now we're not going to get to.
And maybe that's one of the reasons he's leaving. Maybe they've been pushing for him to turn heel, and like a Hulk Hogan in the early 90s, didn't want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he definitely has a very Cena-like response from the crowd. There are people that was still cheering him, but there were people that were booing him. And a lot of that, I do think, isn't a case of X-Pac heat or anything like that as far as the booing goes. I think a lot of it was more a case of, booing them because it's cool to join the crowd and boo them,
Right.
just kind of like, let's be honest. A lot of people that boo Cena, that was the whole reason for them doing it more often than not, was just because, it was fun.
Yeah.
not because they actually hated him or because he had go away heat. I mean, there was one point there where he did have go away heat, but I mean, nobody truly hated him. It was just more just part of the shtick. And I think that really Cody's probably the only person I could think of in really recent memory that's had that kind of response from a crowd.
Yeah. And it's almost to the level, and I'm not saying that he is this big of a superstar or but it is almost to the level of when Hogan finally turned heel.
Mm-hmm.
The fan had been wanting it for forever. And the same could be said, like you said, about John Cena, if he had ever actually turned heel.
Yeah.
It's something that the fans have been wanting and clamoring for. And the artist disagrees. And, I don't know. It's just, I'm real sad that we didn't get that heel turn because it could have been incredible. And I know I could see Cody not wanting to go back heel because he was a heel for most of his career in WWE.
Oh, but it was so good though.
But he was so good at it.
Like, man, Dashing Cody Rhodes is still probably one of my favorite heels ever.
And he could have easily applied some of that to his character.
Oh, yeah.
He would be the smug rich guy that his family is better than you. And, it would have been great. But Joey Hudson, thank you for watching. Which do you think is more likely? Cody had lots of creative control and Tony wanted to lessen it, or Cody had little creative control and he wanted more? I think near the end, Joey, I think he only had creative control over his own stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he really had any creative control. I mean, he may have had a little bit, but I think there at the end, especially if you think about how often we actually saw him on TV, I don't think he had much. I think he'd run ideas by Tony, and then Tony would, give him a bone once in a while. But I mean, honestly, because look at it too. How often have we seen the Bucks on TV much in the last couple of months?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the people who had a lot of control before Tony took over the book, you're not seeing them on TV a whole lot now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find that very interesting as well.
Well, and I like that a little bit more because we're spreading out this roster, and the roster's gotten huge.
I agree.
And I love that we're seeing like the Gun Club get shots at the tag titles and like different things like this. Not saying that I love the Ass Boys, but it's nice to see new blood.
Okay, to be fair, they're not bad. They're really not.
They're good. They're definitely their father's kids. Like, they've got the look.
Oh, they got a great look, man. Holy cow.
I think they would be pushed to the moon in WWE.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Vince would look at them and go, look at them. They're so huge. Yeah.
It's true.
But it's really turned the wrestling world upside down.
Oh yeah,
and
it's a big deal.
Maybe that's by design for Cody. Maybe he took this as like, hey, I am about to make myself the hottest thing in wrestling simply by leaving a company.
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
And everyone is waiting to see where he ends up. Whether it's a work, whether he's going to WWE, whether he shows up in ML freaking W.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching for it. Hell, are we about to see a death match in GCW with Cody?
Look, the NWA is still an option.
Is he going? That's what I was getting ready to say. Is he going after Matt Cardona in the NWA title?
Is he really like hard up for money? I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so.
Like, I mean, he ran the Indies for a long time, and after he left his initial WWE run before he came to AEW, and I mean, I'm sure he wasn't making a fortune doing that.
I think he said that when he went to the Indies, he made more money than he could ever think about in WWE.
I mean, and that's very possible, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. It's like his whole situation's so like kabuki-ish, you know? man, I don't even know what to think. Like, I'm honestly, I'm just bummed out about it because I really like Cody. I really do.
I know we talk crap about him all the time and how he's playing fourth dimensional chess, like Matt McCarthy says he is, and
Homelander Rhodes.
I mean, he is someone that's needed to change it up for a long time, and that's been my really only problem with him is that he had gotten stale for me, and that something needed to change. And then we thought we were seeing that with Arn Anderson kind of bringing out his a little bit darker side and, making him more violent. And then it just kind of went back to normal. And I don't know. It's just, it's hard to look back on his time for me, and me being like I said, a big fan of Cody. Like, I have his action figures. I have his Funko Pop. I've got one of his figures right here behind me, still mint on card, and I don't collect mint on card.
Yeah.
And I like the guy. He's got a great look. I loved his dad. I love his brother. I had no qualms with him. He seems
and that's
like
a crazy
okay
thing
dude.
too. That's another crazy part about this is Dustin's staying behind.
Yeah.
Like, so, I don't know, man. Like I said, this whole it's just so weird and unexpected,
And we'd heard that he was working as a free agent, but it was like, okay, well, they're ironing out his contract. He's pushing for more money. Of course he is. Like, if I was in his situation, I'd be pushing for more money. But from the rumors that is that some guys that have come into the company with that within the last year, namely CM Punk and Brian Danielson, have kind of shown Tony that Cody might just be an upper mid card guy.
Yeah.
And, I think a part of that too is he kind of pigeonholed himself into that spot early on with the whole, if I don't win the title, then I'm never competing for it ever again. And that whole mess. I don't know. I want to believe that he's not going to go back to WWE. He's not going to go back on his word to say he's never going back there again. I mean, he is one of the main reasons, supposedly, that the Bucks and Kenny didn't sign with WWE.
Yeah.
It's just, in a perfect world, if he's truly done with AEW, he goes to NWA and helps them become a huge success.
I would love that. I would love that.
And that fits his style of wrestling. He's a wrestler. He bleeds.
Southern wrestling.
And he's Dusty's son. And, there was something about his run with AEW that never really vibed with the rest of the show, like we said. And maybe it was the middle entrance. Maybe it was, his refusal to turn heel. I don't know. But it's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks because I don't think we're going to be waiting very long until we know our answer.
Yeah.
Whether it's a statement or he shows up on somebody's show. I even said last night, which this has not been proven not to be true, but last night was the end of the Dusty Tag Team Classic. If he was going to WWE, I could have seen him just showing up right then.
Yeah.
And Joey, you've got some great comments to put in here. His return would be massive.
It would be big. But there's also the main concern of what they seem to do with a lot of talents. They tend to bury him under, the returning UFC star whenever it's convenient. If that makes sense.
Right. I don't think he's going to go to WWE and win the title. Unless that is part of his contract that he has got to win the title.
Yeah. I mean, if he did, wow, talk about massive.
Right.
Like if they wanted to shake up things, if they did that, I mean,
it would change WWE's whole layout.
It would change the layout. It would really change the landscape of the competition. Like it would be huge. I mean, I don't foresee it happening because I don't see Vince seeing it that way.
No.
Unfortunately, he's still stuck on, the only stars that he's made in the last 20 years. And he just basically keeps the title floating between the same 5 people at all times. And it's probably going to be like 5 years, unfortunately.
And I mean, we see that in both divisions. We see that in the men's division. And we definitely see it in the women's division.
Oh, absolutely.
How many times have we thought that they were finally pulling the trigger on Liv Morgan?
Oh, yeah.
And just for it not to happen. So I don't know. I want to say that we're going to come on here and we know all the answers, but obviously we're lovers and not experts. We're experts as far as we can be, as far as knowledge of where we think it's going to go. But I am really interested to watch Dynamite tonight. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things that, I mean, really, unless you know something on the inside real close, you don't know. Like, this is probably one of the most like mysterious situations that's happened in wrestling in a long time.
It's interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. And like Matt, you're saying, Cody has taken that chance, and Vince, the second he doesn't like you, you're done. Like, look at Finn Balor. He got a pretty monster push coming back to the main roster, was put right into a Universal title picture. And then the second it didn't matter anymore, when was the last time we've seen Finn Balor on TV?
That's another one of those guys that they have completely misused and wasted, and it's so frustrating.
And they don't know what to do with him.
And which is crazy because his last NXT run was spectacular.
Yeah.
I put that on the main roster and you're printing money at that point.
You don't even have to put the title on him. You just make him that guy that is a threat to everyone.
Yeah.
Because he is.
You could even have him lead a faction if you're really that hard up to do it. But like, I mean, that's all you need to do is have him be that. Stop with this Demon King stuff and all the shenanigans. Just like have him be that version of Finn Balor.
Right.
Like he's believable and the guy is so talented. It's unreal.
Yeah. I ache for the moment that he goes back to New Japan. Like, not saying that that's ever going to happen.
I ache for the moment that he goes anywhere else, period. I just want him out of there.
And my whole thing, I always wanted to see him and Jay White together. So now I guess that means he needs to go to AEW. We don't know the extent of Jay White's contract with All Elite Wrestling, but it looks like he's here. It looks like he's here to stay, and it looks like he's about to shake up the whole Elite structure. I think he might be, the catalyst to get Adam Cole away from that group.
Which needs to happen quickly.
I'm worried. I'm worried with Adam Cole. I love the idea. I both love and hate the idea of him joining up with Fish and O'Reilly. I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them become the group that they were in NXT. I think that's something that we can't just sit there and rest and go, hey, these guys, we're just going to throw them together and we're going to recreate that magic. Like,
I mean, I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I would rather see him with Fish and O'Reilly,
right,
than with the Bucks.
I'm not disagreeing there. I wouldn't hate it if they got back together. I just don't want to see. I'm tired of AEW going for the low hanging fruit.
No, absolutely, I agree.
And it's just to that point where, okay, well, they're back, so they're going to team up. Like, okay. I'm trying to think of other things and I can't right now, but like, we got to show that AEW is different and is that competitive threat. And they're getting there, but they got to start making money. Like, supposedly Tony Khan hasn't made a dime yet. And who knows, his family is so rich that they might not ever have to make a dime. But they got to start making some money or they're not going to be able to afford these guys.
No, and I agree. But I think another thing, too, is that, I'm a firm believer in a show having a little bit of something for everybody, right?
Right.
But lately, especially, it seems like you'll have, like for me personally, I mean, obviously, wrestling is subjective across the board for everybody. Yeah. But especially for myself, I know that whether it's Dynamite or Rampage, there'll be, a good match or two, but there has been a decent sized chunk of each episode lately that it's just kind of there for me. I'm indifferent on it because it's not my cup of tea. And I don't know, it just feels out of place, So I don't know. It just feels like there's too much haha. That makes sense.
I can understand that.
And also the same people fighting the same people week after week after week.
Yeah. That goes back to the whole Cody conversation. I believe him and Malachi went way too long in their feud.
Oh yeah.
It's time for something fresh, and they're getting there. They are. We're getting less and less overture of the same thing, but like I'm not interested in seeing Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin tonight. I'm not interested in seeing 2.0 and Santana and Ortiz again. Like there's some of these things that they just rely on too much.
I know tonight it's Santana and Ortiz against Jericho and Hager, isn't it?
Yes, and it is, and it could be the split up of Inner Circle.
Oh, please, can we get that done, please?
Right,
I'm begging you. Talk about an act that has overstayed its welcome. The Inner Circle's got to go, dude.
Well, we got to get the straps on Santana and Ortiz,
dude. Yeah, those guys are incredible. They deserve way better,
especially since both of them have leaned up and they look better than ever. They both have the physique now to go with the work and the mic work and the charisma. I mean, they've got a total package that should be carrying the titles, and not that Jurassic Express don't deserve a title run, because I feel the same about them. I feel like they both deserve better than what they had been given, but how that team has been in AEW since the beginning and not even sniffed the titles is beyond me.
Oh yeah, I agree.
It was kind of like we were complaining whenever the Bucks finally won it. How they hadn't won them at that point, it was a mystery.
Yeah,
and we said the same thing about the Lucha Bros. I mean, if there's one thing that AEW has, it is the most stacked tag team unit there is.
Yep. Well, I mean, let's be fair. Why we don't get more FTR on is kind of mind-boggling at the same time.
But lately we have been.
I mean, yes and no. We've been seeing them on TV, but how many matches are we actually getting out of them, though?
More often than not.
And that's kind of more the issue. Like, yeah, they had those few matches with, the Lucha Bros. But I think like the last match I saw was them against Lee Johnson and them against Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson, right?
They had a match last week. They fought Punk and Moxley. I think we just lost Rory.
I'm here.
There you are.
No, they had that match against Moxley and Punk, so never mind. But but before that, though, I mean, that was it. They had the match against Lucha Bros, and they had the match against Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson, and that was it.
I mean, you're not wrong. They are one of the top 3 tag teams in the world right now. But they're stuck in that weird limbo right now of MJF's group, where everybody in MJF's group isn't doing anything except whatever MJF is involved in.
And that's another thing that's an issue too, is there's too many damn factions. And I think it's really starting to show.
I don't hate the faction thing. I think
I wouldn't hate the faction thing, except the problem with the faction thing right now in that company is that a lot of guys, because they're in a faction, aren't getting any action.
I understand that.
Like if they were all getting action frequently, it'd be different. But because they're not, hard to justify it.
I like their use of factions because it reminds me of New Japan, how everyone is part of a team.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. You would make friends. Some of those friends don't quite make sense. Like, why is Danhausen part of the best friends? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but okay.
Now that I can tell you, that's probably the only thing lately that I've just completely not been on board with, was the Danhausen thing with them. Like,
right?
Did we have to go? Like, just I don't know. Like, I
feel they were only put together because they're the comedy acts.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, I like Trent. Like, I'm not a Chucky T guy. I'm not an Orange Cassidy guy. Wheeler Yuta's fine. Like, I think he'd be okay on his own. And I like Statlander a lot. But yes. I think that's another one of those groups that is very niche. And I just don't want them on my TV at this point, to be honest.
I will say I do like the addition of Rocky Romero. Like,
keep him with Trent and take him out of the best friends. Like,
right.
I'm all for Roppongi Vice because I loved them when they were in New Japan. I got no problem with that.
I agree to disagree. Wrestling is a subjective art form.
Exactly. No, everybody can have their opinion. Absolutely.
But it's like there were some others talking today about how people are down on Hangman now as a champion, and I don't agree with that. I think he's been a real strong champion in his title defenses, but I feel like his placement on the card hasn't been the greatest.
No, I feel like he should be spotlighted a hell of a lot more than he is.
Yes, and I think from week to week, he doesn't seem like the most important thing on the card. I feel like right now the most important thing on the card is MJF and Punk.
Yeah.
And I think that's about to change because I am very certain, and everybody else is, that we're going to see Wardlow leave MJF soon. And then you've got a hot, fresh baby face to work with there. If you want to. But I don't know. There are some things that need to be fixed right now, and AEW is not flawless. And there was a time where I was like, hey, AEW is pretty near flawless. And at least in my mind, and it's not anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of things where the longer it's gone on, the more you're starting to see some of the flaws,
So, but I think we've rambled on long enough. We're about to have Dynamite on our TV screens, and guys, let us know how you liked this. We're kind of thinking about some new things. Maybe me and old Raj over here will get on a little bit on select Wednesday nights as like a pre-show to Dynamite, and I know that's the only wrestling show I watch live.
Yep.
And so, it makes sense for us to do it. But if you liked this, let us know about it. I know it was kind of impromptu. In the future, we'll have more. Don't forget, next week, we are going live, baby, for our season finale of the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast. If you enjoyed tonight, join us again next week. I believe we are going to go live on Tuesday night. I got to confirm that with Lando. But Roger, where can the folks find you at home?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Collecting Raj. You can also find me on YouTube as well as at Collecting Raj. Which, speaking of, I recently finally got to upload my videos for my AEW Upper Deck Blaster Box opening. So if you are part of that AEW card craze right now, go check out my channel and you can see some Blaster Box openings over there. But yeah, just check me out there. Don't really have anything else going on outside of those two right now.
Awesome. And as always, you can find me in the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast group. You can find me at Real Jake Keel on Instagram, Kiro Jaiku on Twitter. I will have to spell that out for you if you ever want to follow me on Twitter. And make sure to rate, review, subscribe the podcast, join the Facebook group, talk to us, have some fun. And let us know what you want to hear from us. We're gonna be doing. We are now in the 60s as far as episodes go, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So join us live next week for the Brothers in Kayfabe season finale. Then we'll take 2 weeks off, and we'll be back with season 4. How we're already on season 4. It's incredible. But yeah, guys, that's all we got for you tonight. Watch some wrestling. Tune in live next week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Peace.